I don't feel like doing a long-winded intro. What if you're new to me, you say? I mean, I make Xenoverse 2 music videos in the community, but that's all you're gonna get for now. More on that later towards the end, because instead of talking about that for the 90th time, I want to talk about Xenoverse 3 because there's a lot to discuss. So Xenoverse 3 got a lot of news coming out about it, as you've seen, and before I get into the things that people are talking about the most right now, I want to talk about the trailer first, since that was the first piece of news that came out on that day. So for starters, the trailer focuses a lot on West City, and when I say that West City removes Xenoverse 3 from the other two games by a crazy scale, I absolutely mean it. It looks like you can do so much here, and you'll never run out of things to do, as you can see right now and in the trailer. The city seems to have everything from the main area that you were in at the beginning, the GS Squad headquarters, and what seems to be a cafe in the headquarters, and many other things as well, and the school that you can go to learn about the new world that you're in. To add a little bit more about what I think about those, I wonder if that beginning part where Brett attacks you it will be an introduction to show you the very basic, simple combat mechanics of the game, considering that they show a little bit of real-time gameplay before moving to the cutscenes again. But then after that, it shows you and Brett fighting a bunch of enemies in the city too, so maybe that'll be the true tutorial, but we'll see once we get there for sure. I also really hope that the cafe is something that's actually relevant, because to reference another video that I made, I talked about how it would be cool for them to take inspiration from Kakarot by making cafes in the city and actually being able to eat at the place, so that way you can upgrade certain stats or something similar to that effect. So it would be cool if the cafe was relevant in some way, because that gives so much more to do in the city as opposed to it just being a ghost town in Xenoverse 2. And I also hope that there's a tons of additional things that you can do outside of it that are going to be available for you to interact with considering the city size, like games that you can play to unlock more customization features for CACs, driving mini games, etc. In West City University, we also get introduced to the names of the new characters that we saw in the first trailer in Xenoverse 3 as well. We get introduced to Lilica, Rom, and Tap, which, by the way, the joke is completely going over my head as to why people are saying of course her name would be Rom. Obviously don't explain the joke and let me figure out why, because clearly I'm not thinking about it hard enough. But all of their outfits and designs, including John 1K's cartoonishly puffy jacket, are sick, and I hope that you can buy them in shops and even color them as well. Now, with all of that out of the way, obviously it goes without saying that Xenoverse 3 in terms of visuals and features completely eclipses 1 and 2 by a huge margin. Well, huge is not even the proper word to describe it. Like, it's insane how crazy the difference is between those games compared to Xenoverse 3. You can tell that everything was reworked from the ground up with how much they've added into the city, the effects for the attacks, models for characters, and the list goes on. Like, it really does go on. It really feels like the city will not have any dead space like how it was in Kanton City with Xenoverse 2, with most people only going for the PvP areas or raid areas. And because of the new character models and the effects for the game, it really does feel like a true sequel because of all the new additions. And for that, I'm here for it and then some, because there's definitely more news on the way about this game. Speaking of new additions, now to move on to the thing that I still like as an idea on paper, and I really do appreciate them experimenting and taking inspiration from other games to make something completely new and having their own take on it in a different one, but I feel like I need to play it in order to get a full opinion on it. So Soul Change is a new thing that you can do in this game where you can play as other characters through your CAC. Obviously, it's very inspired from Breakers, because in Breakers you can use the powers of other characters through, roster characters and stuff through your CACs. Now, like I said, the idea is something that I like because it could be fun to use, and it also can be very niche for a certain amount of people to use, like if they want to play a certain way. But at the same time, I'm still a little indifferent about it myself, like how everyone else is, and just like how everyone else is as well, I feel like I need to play it just to get a full perspective. But one question I do have about it though, if roster characters are going to be playable in this game, and if they bring back custom partners as well, how would Soul Change affect that? Will you only be able to play as other roster characters through only just your CAC, or will CACs be playable still, but they'll have their own things going on with them? That's what I want to know. And the reason why I ask that is because it doesn't seem like you can transform when you Soul Change into a character that can transform. Granted, we don't have a lot of gameplay footage to fully confirm that, but considering that it lasts like 41 seconds or however long it lasts for, it doesn't seem like that's the case when it's possible that you can transform when you Soul Change into a character that does have transformations, like Trunks, for example, because he can go Super Saiyan. So if that truly is the case, then that would give people a reason to play the roster characters in the game. And I would love to see roster characters be playable again, even though the main focus is CACs in this game, and it does feel like it's RPG based. I would love to see what new unique attacks and redone attacks that certain characters will have in the game. And I also would like to see if certain roster characters will be one transforming character instead of just them being separate like how they were in Xenoverse 2, like how First Form Frieza is to Final Form Frieza, Cell to First Form to Perfect, Cooler to Final Form Cooler, Jiren to Full Power Jiren, etc. But we'll see if that's the case once more info comes out. I hope it is. And finally, the last thing I want to talk about is the main topic of how the game plays, the UI design, and the new battle mechanics. Moving on to the UI and mechanics now, the Xenoverse 3 UI is vastly different from the previous games, as you can see, because Xenoverse 3, compared to the other two games, actually doesn't have a key gauge where your health is to show how much ki you have to use super attacks and ultimates. Those attacks are now designed to have cooldowns every single time you use them, which means that once you use them, you have to wait for the attack to charge up to use it again. The ki gauge is gone, but the stamina gauge from what I can see is still there. But not where your health is, but where the characters are, whether it's the character you're playing as or your opponents, or where your opponents are. And it seems to stack as well, because as you can see in the footage, like if you are getting attacked or the enemy's getting attacked, it goes down, and then it goes from like 4 to 3, or when you're not getting attacked, it goes back up to, you know, from 2 to 3, stuff like that. It just seems like there's numbers there leading or giving the indication that it stacks too. I'm going loosely off of posts and videos that I didn't take a look at too heavily with all of this, so if I'm wrong about something, then feel free to let me know in the comments below. There's also skill types in the game like guard piercing, stamina draining, and break critical types. According to the post that I saw, guard piercing type skills deal damage by breaking the enemy's guard, stamina drain attack skills, hence the name, drains enemy's stamina, and break critical attack skills deal tons of damage and seem to be connected to break critical hits in some way, which I assume that means that you can combo with it in some way, but don't quote me on that though, like I said. So I saw people saying that XV3 plays like Breakers or Battle of Z on Twitter, and I don't understand how that came across that way personally, because this game doesn't feel like any of those games and plays like a new Xenoverse game that stays true to its roots, you know, the things that make it Xenoverse, while being noticeably different simultaneously. Of course, I don't know how it truly feels because just like everyone else who hasn't played the game at Game Fest playing the demo, I didn't get a chance to play it to truly know that myself, but just from the looks of it alone, there is a difference, but it still feels like Xenoverse at the end of the day, visually, especially with the return of evasive skills. Maybe because of the camera angle of the three games being similar to each other is the reason why people thought that, but I'm just going based off of my own way of looking at it or my own headcanon, because I actually don't know why people thought Xenoverse 3 played exactly like Breakers or Battle of Z. I mean, yeah, Xenoverse 3 borrows concept from Breakers like Soul Change or Dragon Change or whatever. Like originally it was Dragon Change and Breakers, and the inspired concept and how it works in Xenoverse 3 is Soul Change. But it doesn't play the exact same as Breakers as far as I'm concerned. And I honestly don't feel like looking through all those tweets to understand how that even started or why in the first place. Now, with the UI design being different, I feel like I definitely need to play the game in order for it to grow on me, because it is something new that I feel like I need to get used to. And I do think it has a chance to change in the future since it's still technically under development, the game is. But overall, like what we got so far, I think the UI, to me at least, looks fine to the point where I feel like I could get used to it after playing it a few times. It definitely does feel like a RPG MMO styled UI as opposed to what it was before, and it certainly feels like that for the gameplay that we've seen so far too. There's also the concern about how it would look in PvP and people not wanting the UI to look how it does now in that setting. But it's important to remember that the UI design for PvP and quests can be different from each other, and they can change it over time. So I'm not going to make my judgment about what I think the PvP UI design would look like, you know, based off of the stuff that we have now, because it can be subject to change over time, since it's still, again, technically under development, because it's not coming out until next year. There's also some people saying that it kind of looks cluttered, and I can sort of see that, but again, personally, I think I can adapt to the new UI with just a little bit of experience with playing the game, but unless I get extraordinarily lucky in some way to get in that position, I don't see that happening until much, much later. Up next is skills now, and honestly, I'm a big fan of this change with super attacks and ultimates having a cooldown in Xenoverse 3 as opposed to key gauges being the same like how they once were, because Xenoverse had a huge problem with annoying playstyles that allow you to spam supers and ults over and over and over again at a ridiculous rate to the point where it was genuinely not fun to fight against that every single time you ran into it online. Not to sound like a broken record, but there was always those annoying playstyles that you ran into where people were religiously spamming supers and ultimates throughout the whole match with very little key or whatever it was that allowed them to do that over and over and over and over again. A quick example of this is in the early days of Xenoverse 2, you had so many people spamming fake death on top of broken skills to win matches for a while. And it got nerfed over time, of course. But then backflip just took its place out of nowhere because that's also a skill that costs no key. So people were allowed to spam yet another broken escape move like fake death was when it was completely immensely broken amongst everybody, and people in the community were just religiously using that over and over and over again to win matches. Backflip is essentially the modern day fake death. There were also a bunch of super souls that made the issue of spamming even worse because your key regenerates when the conditions of the super soul are activated with little to no effort at all to activate the super soul. And again, that just opened the door for more people to play in annoying ways and spam throughout the whole fight. And with super attack cooldowns, that gets rid of that problem entirely because, well, maybe not entirely, but it lessens it by a significant amount because you actually have to think and consider the limitations that you have while fighting instead of relying on brain dead tactics to win matches. Because so many people have been playing like that in the game for years at this point, to the point where annoying is not enough to properly describe it. And this is a very nice change of pace to get rid of all those annoying playstyles. And it also makes you consider your skills a lot more once they are designed for a specific purpose in combat. And it makes you think about what you want to include with your character, making it a lot more strategic. And again, me personally, I like actually having to fight while actually having to think, as opposed to someone slamming their head on the controller and getting away with it and using severely broken skills under a connection that doesn't work that allows them to win matches. And so, as we reach the end of me giving my personal thoughts, Xenoverse 3 is looking pretty good so far, with some things that still need to be considered with like the soul change mechanic and how that works, as well as many other things. But regardless, I'm absolutely loving how much has changed with Xenoverse 3 so far. And like, I didn't even mention the fact that when you actually transform into Super Saiyan, like your hair actually spikes up, which is a long-awaited feature that people have been spamming questions or, requests for towards Dimps for a really long time. And I'm glad that Xenoverse 3 officially delivered it with, with its presence. So I'm super happy about that as well. I'm also glad that it's not just a copy and paste sequel with little to no changes as well. Of course, I want it to feel like Xenoverse in order for it to be Xenoverse, if that makes any sense. But I'm glad that they're taking so many different steps to making this game feel far removed from the previous games with its changes. And honestly, next time, I hope that we get more information on the main story and what it'll be about, since there's an interesting set of characters to be included in West City, and seemingly in the story as well. And I'm really wondering what the main enemies will be too, and what the overall goal is. At the time of me making this video, we only got how many hours will be in the story, which is like I think 20 or 30. But we don't know anything more than that. And I'm hoping that there's more to that next time we get more info on Xenoverse 3, as well as other things like roster characters, if they're adding them, custom partners, more CAC features, the clothing and stuff, what will be included in that, etc. Overall though, there's more to come with Xenoverse 3 in the future. And just like how I said before, I'm here for what they got in store, for what they want to show us in the future, and then some. And I'll be here to cover it or give my personal thoughts about it just like how I did this time. Depending on what it is, I don't know, but we'll see once we get there. What, too soon for an outro?
Nah, I'm new here. Who are you?
Alright, I said I would tell you that, huh? Well, in that case, like how I said before in the intro, I make Xenoverse 2 music videos featuring other people's CACs in the community, for now. And sometimes I make talking videos like these, but eventually I will and want to evolve my content out of my current niche to expand my potential as a creator, because there's a lot that I want to make happen. But for now though, here's the playlist that you can check out if you want to watch all the videos that I made so far. And if you watch one of them and you want to know how to get your CAC in future music videos, then this video pretty much explains how to do that. And of course, if you want to see more videos like those, or like these where I'm just talking, or perhaps future stuff that I have in mind, then the generic 3 buttons that every single YouTuber tells you to press goes a pretty long way to help these videos out in the algorithm, so that way I can continue to provide that said content. I'm actually in the middle of making 2 GMVs right now, so now's actually a good time to join in if you are a new viewer by any chance. Anyway though, I want to finish all of what I have planned for those videos, so you can expect those sometime soon, and keep an eye out if you're interested. In the meantime though, I'll see you when I see you. Whether it's more Xenoverse 3 news or the next Xenoverse 2 music video. It's whichever one comes first, honestly.